I remember the days battling odd and lovable creatures on my Game Boy Color with the groundbreaking games Pokemon Red and Blue. There was something my young little mind took a liking to, and I was hooked, carrying that little device everywhere with me. Just being able to find all these different little critters intrigued me, and I was always anxious to find new Pokemon. My interest in the series eventually waned when Diamond and Pearl came around, and I then skipped out on Black and White. I did try to get back into the series with White too, and I found some enjoyment out of it, but I found the first 3DS Pokemon games, Pokemon X and Y, to be something pretty special. They retain that same Pokemon feel, but expand upon it. Pokemon X and Y is set in a brand new region known as Kalos, and as you explore this new region, you will come to find that iconic Pokemon formula that fans have come to know and love is still intact. You'll still be finding and raising a variety of Pokemon, collecting 8 gym badges via Pokemon battles to eventually become the Pokemon champion, and in between all that, ward off some evil threat that now comes in the form of the new Team Flare. They're out to do something world-changing, and let's just say that it isn't very good. As I have mentioned before, X and Y will have a very familiar feel to Pokemon veterans, but on the other hand, it's different. Much of that has to do with the Pokemon series finally making a jump to a full-blown 3D world with actual 3D models of Pokemon. After being used to seeing flat 2D sprites of Pokemon duking it out, the 3D is a welcome game changer for the series. It offers up more fluid animations for the Pokemon battles and allows us to see the actual volume of the Pokemon. The Pokemon are actually really well designed too and are reminiscent of their past 2D sprites, so nothing really feels off about them. Like any new generation of Pokemon games, a batch of never before seen creatures are introduced, and they're all pretty well done. You got things that range from a cute little flower Pokemon known as Flabebe to a giant fearsome T-Rex known as Tyrantrum. And for longtime Pokemon fans, plenty of past Pokemon make their return as well, considering there isn't a large amount of new Pokemon being introduced, which is kind of a bummer, but nevertheless it is good to see some familiar faces. You'll even get to choose from Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle as a second starter Pokemon, which is pretty neat. Now Game Freak is really trying to cater to both the casual and hardcore Pokemon players with X and Y. As a casual Pokemon player myself, I took a liking to the new revamped experience share item that you get early on in the game. The Pokemon that is actually fighting thus gets 100% of the experience, but every other Pokemon in your party gets 50% experience as well, so it is super helpful. And say goodbye to grinding, because that is pretty much eliminated here with the help of this revamped item, as I never found myself having to go out of my way just to level up my Pokemon. On the other hand, I can also see it being somewhat overpowered because your Pokemon will level up pretty quickly, and you may find beating opponents a cinch. So Game Freak could have toned it down a little bit here. And if you're on the more hardcore side of things, Game Freak has added multiple new features. For one, a brand new Pokemon type has been introduced for the very first time known as Fairy, which has been put in place to counter Dragon types and thus offer more strategy for your gameplay. To make your Pokemon the strongest they can be, you can also experiment with Super Training and Pokemon-Ami, which are just side features that are not crucial to your game experience, and you can actually play the full game without touching these at all. But if you are into competitive Pokemon battles, these are for you. Super Training has you playing through shallow minigames to improve the base stats of your Pokemon, while Pokemon-Ami has you taking on a more Nintendogs type of role of feeding and petting your Pokemon, and thus have them increase their affection for you, and thus improve their performance in battle. And I can't forget to mention the Mega Evolutions. These can change the tide in battles as they act as temporary evolutions that can only be utilized by certain Pokemon, and it affects them by giving them higher stats and possibly even changing their ability or Pokemon type. So of course this offers up more strategy. As for the game's online functionality, I really like how easily accessible it is to hop online and play with someone around the world. While in single player you can easily start searching for worthy opponents with a few simple button presses. I just found it to be really convenient not having to head back to the game's main menu to access another mode each time you wanted to head online. As for some gripes I had, the games went with a more dynamic camera this time around, which is cool for the most part, but it is not used well at all in Kalos main city Lumiose. The camera just gets way too close to the trainer, making it very difficult to see your surroundings. To make matters worse, the camera is fixed so you can't adjust it in any way. It's pretty terrible. And then there's the 3D effect, which mainly is only used during one-on-one battles, and even then it is downright terrible. Having the 3D on causes a substantial drop in the frame rate, making the character movements sluggish, and it's a shame since I like playing with the 3D on. Besides all that, Pokemon X and Y are fantastic games to experience for people new to the series or those who have been following along for many years. Being much more easily accessible to casual players with the help of the revamped experience share is a plus. And on the other hand, the gameplay and strategy has deepened for those who are more into the competitive Pokemon side of things. The game doesn't come without its faults though, with the experience share being somewhat overpowered, the camera being annoying at points, and the 3D being abysmal. But hey, it's Pokemon. Overall, the GamingPixelShow.com is awarding Pokemon X and Y a 4.5 out of 5.
And that will bring us the end of this review. If you like what you saw, please give it a thumbs up and add your favorites and all that good stuff. And you can stay tuned for more news videos, video reviews, and That's Nintendo Crazy episodes. But I'll talk to you later in the next video, guys. Bye!